Well, hi, Jean. It is July 16th, 2022, and I wanted to put that date in there. And we are going to talk today about your retirement. And the retirement's been like 30 years. So we're going to do maybe the first part, the early years and that type of thing. And then next week we'll do the later years or
Sure.
that type of thing.
Sure.
All right. So before I stop sharing my screen, maybe you can just, I know we covered this in another video, earlier video, but I was just going to start out with like just the first part of your retirement, like maybe how old you were, or if you remember about the year that you retired. And I know you retired twice. So
right. And I have that as part of my
okay.
script here too.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to stop sharing. We'll get to this. Okay.
Okay. Now, are we recording?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, excuse me. In 1991, the state of Washington offered its employees an early retirement benefit, which took place in 1992. And one of the requirements to qualify for early retirement was that I had to be 50 years old and I had to have at least 20 years of state service.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, lucky for me, in 1992, I turned 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I also had 23 years of service with the state.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So in both cases, I qualified for the early retirement. And actually, Robin qualified also because she was old enough and she had enough years in. But we talked about it, and she liked what she was doing. She was comfortable in her job. And so then she decided to forego the early retirement and wait until she qualified for regular retirement. The benefits weren't any different as far as percentage of retirement pay and things like that. It's just that she liked doing what she was doing, and so she continued on. And that was for 3 more years because she had to be 55 and have 25 years of service in or something like that. So anyway, she waited. She went back to work, and then I retired in September of 1992.
Okay.
And it was kind of different. You know, when you're used to getting up every morning at 5 o'clock and getting ready for work and going into work and having to put up with, all your work duties.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you don't have to. There was a little bit of a adjustment in there. But as it was, it sort of worked out pretty good because somewhere just before I retired, Steve and his wife at the time, Diane, had moved to Texas for his job. And he was still racing in Washington.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But he didn't take his car with him. He left the car at the house. And so then after I retired, we decided that we would take a trip down to Texas, and we would trailer his race car down so that he could continue with his hobby. And in the meantime, we made an agreement that said Steve was going to look for a 240Z Datsun in Texas. And if he could find one that was in pretty good shape, he would go ahead and buy it. And what we ended up doing is we towed his car down, and then we brought back the Datsun that he bought. It was a white one. Because Robin was kind of interested in maybe driving a Datsun. And so we thought, well, that would be pretty good. And so that was I would say probably a 1-week vacation where we drove down, and then on the way back, we drove through Las Vegas and then brought the car back. And I worked on that car for probably the first 5 months of being retired. Mainly because I had the time available. And so what I did was I fixed up the car so that it was drivable. And Robin got to pick the color that I painted the car. It was called a teal green.
Oh, okay.
Color. And so after I finished the car, Robin drove that car for probably 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, while she was still working.
Oh, okay.
And I think she really enjoyed driving it. So it was a little bit different because it wasn't an automatic, but
right.
I think everybody at work was pretty impressed with
it. I bet.
But anyway, that sort of took care of the first 6 months plus that I spent in retirement. And then after that, I think your mom sort of she didn't get jealous. She just thought I should be doing something other than laying around while she went to work. So we agreed that maybe I should find something to do work-wise. And so I interviewed at a couple of places, and there was one agency, it was a state agency that had gone private.
Okay.
It was called Washington Library Network. And so I interviewed there, and the person that I interviewed with said, well, the job is a computer help desk person helping customers of theirs work on the computer. And it's only an 8 to 5 job, 5 days a week. And there's virtually no foreseeable advancement possibilities. And I said, that fits my bill just fine.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to work weekends. I didn't want to work longer than 8-hour time frames. So that part worked out really good. And so I went to work for WLN. And, of course, the first 4, 5, 6 months was a learning process and just getting back into the work.
Yeah.
Job.
Work week.
Yeah, work week and things like that. And so I continued working at WLN. The thing that I didn't realize, and I don't think WLN realized it either, is that all of a sudden they had a fairly big turnover rate. And unfortunately for them, the turnover rate was in their supervision and management areas. And the other thing that they were in the process of doing was acquiring their own computer. Because what they were doing is they were leasing computer time from Washington State University. So all of those things sort of, I don't know, I brought those experiences with me when I went to WLN, because I was in management, and I had relocated and installed some computers. So rather than for them to go looking for somebody, they asked me if I would get into the supervision part of the data processing. And I knew that I only had so many years I was going to be working. So I said, sure, I could do that, because they were in need of someone. So I became a supervisor in their operations part, the computer part. And then a little while later, their manager in charge of the computer system had a health issue, I think it was, or maybe it was his wife that had a health issue, one or the other. But anyway, he had to leave. And so when he left, then they asked me if I'd fill that position plus whatever the other supervisor position I was doing. So it wasn't that big of a change, and it was a little bit more money. And so I said, sure, still knowing that I was going to be gone for just a little while. And then the last thing that happened was the director of data processing at WLN quit. And that position required an extensive job hunt, I guess you call it, for a replacement. But they still needed somebody as an interim. And so they asked me if I would be an interim. And I said, yeah, but I've only got about 8 or 9 more months before I'm going to be gone. So at least it gave them a time frame to look for somebody. And so I told them I didn't want any more money to assume that other position, responsibility. I said, what I wanted was, I wanted to be tenured, because you have to have, I think it was 5 years employment. To be tenured, so that I qualified for their retirement system. And I wanted 2 weeks vacation when I quit, or the pay of 2 weeks vacation when I quit. And surprisingly, they agreed to all of that. So I was the director of WLN for 6 or 8 months, maybe a little bit longer when I quit. But I quit in, let me see, 1996, February of 1996. Your mother retired in 95, at the end of 1995. Okay. So I worked probably 3 or 4 months after your mother had retired. And that sort of gave her a little bit of adjustment period in there too.
Yeah, sure.
And so that part worked out pretty good. And by working at WLN those 3 years, we were able to both retire debt free. We didn't, the mortgage on the house was paid, all our car payments were all paid, and everything. And so that really helped. And what made it, I guess, kind of interesting is that with the two of us still working, we actually got 3 checks because I got a retirement check and a check from WLN.
Oh, yeah.
And then your mom was getting paid for her work. So that allowed us to be financially more secure. And that worked out real well. So anyway, by 1996, both of us were retired, and we're pretty much free to do whatever we wanted to do. And I'm going to sort of regress a little bit because one of the questions was, how many pets did we have during this time frame that we were going along? And we had 2 cats. We had one cat who we named BC, and I think it was a cat that Steve brought home.
Oh,
while he was still going to school. And the BC, I think, stood for bad cat.
Oh, oops.
BC was a Manx, and it didn't have a tail, and it was a small cat. It wasn't a real bad cat. It just wasn't what I would consider a friendly, overly friendly cat.
Yeah.
And then what was it towards, I think it was just about the time I was getting ready to retire. Maybe it was about a year before I retired. A friend of ours at work brought in a cat. Jill was the woman's name. And she was a cat lover, but she had 2 cats of her own, and somehow this other cat sort of adopted her, but she couldn't take care of 3.
Oh, yeah.
So she brought in this, what color do you call it? Orange?
Oh, yeah.
An orange cat. And Robin took one look at the cat and kind of fell in love with it.
Oh, yeah.
So we sort of adopted that cat. Because Jill was going to take the cat down to the Humane Society.
Oh.
And so what we ended up doing was naming that cat AD. And AD stood for, lack of a better term, almost dead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But AD was a really friendly cat. And it was an indoor-outdoor cat. BC was an indoor cat.
Okay.
But AD was an indoor-outdoor cat that would occasionally get into fights with the other animals around.
Oh.
But one time she got infected from a fight, and then she was diagnosed with having what is it? Leukemia, AIDS?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that cat cancer.
Yeah. And so then we had to make her an indoor cat.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Go out. But, and that was fine. They, the two cats sort of got along okay,
Mm-hmm.
probably for about 6 or 8 months. And then AD got sick, and then we had to put AD down.
Mm.
And so then it was just, BC got sick.
Oh, okay.
And AD was the only cat that was left at the
Okay.
house. And AD lasted for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And, pets are like children.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, you got to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
And AD was kind of a fat cat.
Mm-hmm.
And
like a Garfield, right? Kind
of
like
yeah, right. Definitely a Garfield. Yeah. No. But he wasn't a cheap Garfield.
Oh, yeah.
He was in surgery twice.
Oh.
For getting in fights and having infections. But, it's like a kid. You don't just ignore the kid because they need medical care. So we took care of AD, and then AD finally got old. And we had to put AD down. But but he was a good cat.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing, and then I'm going to regress a little bit, because about the time I was getting ready to retire, this friend of mine that I bowled with on a team was into bonsai. And he encouraged me to, go to a meeting and check out his collection and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And it was pretty interesting. And I kind of like doing that kind of stuff anyway, gardening and stuff. So I started going to the bonsai meeting. Robin and I started going to the bonsai meetings. And the meetings were held at what was then Briggs Nursery on the Elm Highway, in their lunchroom or something in the evening. But the club was, I guess the lack of a better word, was kind of disorganized.
Oh.
It was, a group of people that were interested in bonsai. They didn't have what you would call a formal meeting with an agenda and all that kind of stuff. And so probably for the first 6-8 months, when your mom and I attended, we just went to the meetings, we sat, we listened, and just sort of got the lay of the land, figured out how things were, don't say not run, but not organized, I guess is a better word.
Yeah, okay.
The club did have projects, and the projects were pretty good. They had a bonsai show at the Capitol Mall once a year.
Oh.
And that went fairly well. But after a while, well, we were attending the club meetings. I think we felt that we could maybe organize the meetings a little bit better. And so I guess one of the times they had, they elected club presidents and things like that. And so I thought, well, I think I know what's going on. I think I have an idea of what the club needs. And so I volunteered to run for president. And I was elected. and so then slowly, your mom and I decided that the club needed a direction, they needed a purpose, and they needed, I guess, a little bit more control. And so between your mom and I, we sort of got the club back on track to where it was, I guess, more functional.
Okay.
And people actually, I guess, enjoyed coming. They learned a lot of things. Your mom wasn't that much into bonsai, but she liked doing the computer-related things that an organization needs. So she was the club secretary, so she wrote up the minutes. She was the club newsletter publisher, and so every month she published a newsletter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And for a while there, she was also the treasurer. But some of those other jobs, we were able to find other people that were willing to take over those positions, and so it cut back a little bit on the administrative work your mom had to do. But she was a real big help in organizing the club and made sure that all the club members knew what was happening, and they kept up on their dues and things like that. And so it was kind of good that we had a mutual interest, but functionally we did different things for the club than we didn't. I guess you'd say we didn't butt heads, but we didn't butt heads very often because it was just a club, and everybody that volunteered. And so that worked out pretty good. And I was president. The president ran for 2 years, I think it is. And I think I was president for 12 years or 6 sessions during that time frame.
Wow, yeah.
And that was it. It wasn't bad because I didn't have to worry about work. Your mom didn't have to worry about work. So anything extra that the club needed as far as support, I had the time, or your mom had the time. And so we were able to spend that time getting the club back on track. And I thought we did a pretty good job. Your mom did a real good job. And
sounds like both of you did, since you were there, president for 12 years,
Yeah, and actually, we had a few projects. Actually, they were kind of good-sized projects that the club sort of participated in. One of them was the Puyallup Fair. Early on, had their fair in, I think it was September. September. And then about the time we got interested in the Bonsai Club in Olympia, the Puyallup Fair started what they called their spring show. The spring show was in April, I think, March and April. It was only like a 4-day, 5-day event. And one of the club members was a good friend of one of the executives at the Gulf Fair. And we got together with the fair people and asked if we could do a bonsai exhibit at the spring show, because we didn't want to go what was a 2 or 3 week regular fair in the fall.
Oh, yeah.
So we started out small at the spring fair, and that project basically lasted for, I think, at least another 10 or 12 years. It was a lot of work because we had to coordinate space, we had to coordinate getting plants, we had to do all of that.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of time and effort. But we had some good help, so it was kind of fun. And then the fair didn't treat us like, let's see, what do you call, the people that sell?
Oh, like vendors.
Vendors, yeah. They didn't treat us like vendors. And actually, for the first, I think, 5 or 6 years, they provided a booth for us, free of charge. And then after that, they paid us they charged us, I don't know, probably about a quarter of what they charged their vendors.
Oh,
to do the show. But the fair was really good to us, and we got a lot of memberships out of it.
Oh,
we made a little bit of money because we sold plants.
Okay, yeah.
And then we sort of partnered up with a nursery in Sumner that always sold azaleas at the fair. And what this nursery did is they would, the woman there was also into bonsai. And so she had a couple of really nice bonsais. And then she would make her own little bonsais. And then rather than selling them at her booth, they would sell them at our booth.
Yeah. Okay.
And then give us a percentage of the sale. So we made a little bit of money that way. But anyway, that was a really good project. It's just that towards the end, it was a little bit more work than we wanted to do. And there was less interest from club members. So we decided to go ahead and stop.
Okay, yeah.
Stop doing that. But in between that, we kept pretty busy with other things. Weyerhaeuser had a bonsai exhibit in Federal Way called Pacific Rim. And I started out volunteering at Pacific Rim after I retired. And I did that for about 10 years, I think. And it was a real good experience for me because being a novice and everything, the curator at Pacific Rim, Dave DeGroat, was a very good teacher.
Oh, okay.
And I learned an awful lot. And we put on, actually, Pacific Rim put on shows. They did the Flower and Garden Show, I think 3 years in Seattle. They had a big booth out there. And we did a couple of shows at the Point Defiance Zoo. And I think a couple other places. But anyway, I learned an awful lot from him. And that was good. And that was something that I did that your mother didn't get involved in, which was fine because we each sort of had to have our own little space.
Yeah, sure.
So your mom got involved in the Olympia Garden Club.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a member of that club for, actually, she still is a member
Oh, yeah.
of that club because she became a lifetime member.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know how you qualify to be a lifetime member. I think it's just your participation in the club, things that you did,
Yeah.
and how much involvement you got in with that. But anyway, as a lifetime member, she didn't have to pay any dues,
Okay, yeah.
and she got all the newsletters and all that information from the club. But she was really active in the garden club, and she enjoyed it. I think it was from a social aspect, and the fact that she liked doing gardening also.
Yeah.
And so that worked out. And then the other thing that your mother became really engrossed in, I guess, be lack of a better word, is the book club.
Oh, yeah.
The book club was sort of an informal situation. I've heard where you have book clubs that are really organized and they I don't want to say that they're strict, but their requirements are a lot more stringent. The book club that your mother belonged to, a lot of the women that were in the club she knew from past.
Oh, yeah, right.
And so they were good friends of hers. And they always had a good time. So she got involved in that one quite a bit, and she did the newsletter for the book club. She kept track of the books that they've read and the books that they were supposed to read. And then she changed their system from when she sent out the newsletter, she used to type it up and then mail it out. And at the end, she was just emailing it to all the members. And that way it made it a lot easier for her. But she had another, this wasn't a book club member. But anyway, the book club was a big social thing for her, and she enjoyed it a whole lot. And it was nice because she had her things that and then I had mine, and then we had the things that we did together.
Yeah, sure.
And that worked out really good. And about the same time, we were getting ready to retire. I had bought a timeshare in Ocean Shores, Washington. And timeshares are like resorts.
Yeah.
And I bought a week.
Okay.
And one of the reasons that I bought the week was because where we worked, it was pretty busy most of the time. And a lot of times, since both your mom and I had responsible positions, sometimes it was really hard to go on a vacation.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But the timeshares, if you don't use the week on a timeshare, you lose it. And so by buying the timeshare, it forced us to take at least a week's vacation every year. And so I guess that was part of the justification.
Yeah.
The other part was that we were able to go to different places, and we were able to exchange 1 week of ocean shores for a week someplace else.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They had what they called a clearinghouse. And what we'd do is we'd give our week of ocean shores to the clearinghouse. And then we would go through the clearinghouse inventory and find a week someplace else that we might be interested in. And we'd go. And so, yeah, it worked out pretty good. And so one of the weeks that we took off, we came here to Hawaii. And actually we came to Maui. And it seems like every time you go to a timeshare, they always have this big promotional selling thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, that you have to listen to.
Yeah. And they're pretty intense. And so they almost make you feel bad if you don't buy anything. You sort of have to be kind of thick-skinned on that part. But anyway, when we were in Hawaii and in Maui, we went to a presentation, and it sounded interesting, and we enjoyed it. So we bought a timeshare in Hawaii. And so now we had 2 weeks of vacation each year that we needed to take. And so we always tried to make use of the 2 weeks. And then a little bit later, where did we go? I know it was. We did a timeshare exchange in Oregon, in Redmond, Oregon, at a place called Eagle Crest. See, that was one name I couldn't remember.
Oh,
and it just came to me when
there
I was
you go.
That's right. And we didn't have any intentions at all to buy any more timeshares. We figured 2 was good. But while we were at Eagle Crest, we kept saying, no, we're not interested. No, we're not interested. And then they finally, their last offer was, they had this couple that got a divorce, and the woman got the timeshare for Eagle Crest. That was part of the settlement. And they said, well, why don't you make an offer to this woman for her week at Eagle Crest? Yeah. I figure, heck, we could make some ridiculous offer and then just walk out of the room.
Yeah.
And so we made an offer, and the offer was probably at least half of what Eagle Crest was selling their timeshares for.
Yeah.
Or more. And so we just made the offer and says, okay, this is what we'd pay for it, and we'd want that year's week there. And so they got a hold of the woman, and the woman says, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Because I guess she had no intentions of using it, and at least she was going to be able to get rid of it. So now we had 3 timeshares.
Okay.
And Eagle Crest was a really nice timeshare. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath on the Deschutes River.
Oh, nice.
Close to Bend, Oregon. And so every September after that, we'd go to Eagle Crest, and then we'd invite Mike and Patty to go with us. Or if they couldn't, then sometimes Denise and one of her significant others or whatever would go. And Eagle Crest had 2 regular golf courses and a 18-hole par 3 course there. But the facilities was really nice. Things to do there were really good. So we enjoyed that one. And that's one of the few timeshares that we would go back to every year. One, because it was within driving distance.
Yeah.
And two, it was a nice place. So we were happily going along with 3 timeshares. And in between all of this, around February, I think it was in February, when was that? 92. Just right after we retired, we started going down to Palm Springs. Your mom had an aunt down there, Aunt Sunny. And so being winter, it was kind of a nice place to go because the weather was better. And she had a friend that had a condo in Palm Springs that he rented it out every year. So we would go and rent for the month of February his condo.
Oh, yeah.
And stay there. And it just so happened that in February, the Bob Hope Classic golf tournament was held. And it's a pro-am tournament where you have professionals. That's actually a celebrity tournament because you had a lot of celebrities and pros and amateurs in the tournament. And so I volunteered the first year, I think that we went down, either the first or second year, and I really enjoyed it. And so then I convinced Mike and Patty to come down and volunteer and have Mike volunteer with me. And so they started coming down every February for a week. And we volunteered at the tournament, and we got to meet, a lot of the professional players. And
oh yeah, fun.
Like that. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. And one year, the tournament provided a ticket for Patty and your mom. I think it was a one day. The tournament lasts for 5 days. And they got a one-day pass to the tournament. And so I think it was one year that they had the tournament. Your mom and Patty were out there watching the golfers, and she was standing by the green, I think it was, or the tee, and she looked over, and Samuel L. Jackson, was standing next to her.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure if she knew who Samuel L. Jackson was. I think she recognized the face, but she didn't know who he was. And he asked her if she wanted his autograph. Yeah. And not to be impolite. She just, sure. And so then she got his autograph. And I guess that was probably one of the bigger events.
Yes, a defining moment, huh?
Yeah, that's right. And so Mike and I volunteered at that tournament for about 10 years. And then, I don't know, the tournament sort of lost some of its pizzazz, I guess it was. They changed the name. It was no longer the Bob Hope tournament anymore. And then, so we decided that we didn't want to volunteer anymore. So then we stopped. And I think that was about the time Sunny was starting to get, her age started to decline.
Uh-huh.
And so
Yeah.
we didn't go down there every year as we did before. So that was just sort of an end to another one of those interesting events that we were able to do while we were doing our travels. And usually what happened was that in February, we would rent a condo for the tournament. And then maybe a week or 2 weeks into March, we would do a timeshare exchange and go to down towards San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Did an exchange and did a little bit of looking around down there and having some fun. And it just so happened that one of the places we stayed was a place called the Palisades. It was a resort, and it was right next to Legoland.
Okay.
In California, which we never went to, but it was right next door.
Yeah.
But and then for some reason, you know, since it was a timeshare, they did the promotional thing again. And I don't know, for some reason we liked the location and the facilities a whole lot. So that was number 4 on our timeshare list.
Okay.
Now, as if we didn't have enough as it was, but we really liked going down there. And actually, we bought that probably midway through our 10-year trips going down for the
yeah.
So we would just, February, we'd go to Palm Springs, and then in first maybe a week or 2 in March, we would go to the coast, spend some time on the coast. Then we'd come home, and that would that be end of March. And supposedly the weather in Washington was supposed to start getting a little bit better, so it wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
And so, and that was a lot of fun. And we'd go to San Diego often. And I think the other reason that we would go down towards the San Diego area is because Robin's brother lived in Lake Forest, which wasn't very far from our timeshare at Palisades.
Okay, yeah.
So it gave us another reason to go visit family.
Yeah.
And things like that and see how they were, because Robin's brother was a pretty busy person owning a company. And so we didn't see him a whole lot. Most of their travels were all of her brother's kids were.
Oh, yeah.
And then that could be anywhere from Florida to Denver to all parts of California. So anyway, it was good to be able to go down and see them every once in a while and stay in touch. And they were always interesting to visit. Robin's brother's wife, Suzanne, and her brother lived in a place called Lake Forest, which was on a man-made lake.
Oh, yeah.
And for the longest time, each time we would go down there, they were always doing something with their house, modeling this or remodeling that. So that made it kind of interesting to go down and see what changes.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And of course, Robin's nieces and nephews had all grown up and they'd all moved out.
Mm-hmm.
It was only Dave and Suzanne that was at the house. And it's always interesting for me to go down to California and see how, I guess you'd say, how the other half lives.
Oh, yeah, right.
Kind of a thing. Because I know that during Christmas, they hire people to come out and decorate the outside of their house.
Oh, yeah.
Put the lights out, things like that.
Right.
And I guess in Washington, you don't find very many people that hire out.
Yeah.
Suzanne did all the decorating inside. She always, I don't know, she would just go all out and decorate. She liked doing that kind of stuff. So it was always interesting that way.
Yeah.
But the lifestyle in California is a little different. I don't know if I could ever get used to it. The pace there is a little bit too quick. And, you know, when we used to go over there and maybe we'd go out to dinner or we'd go to lunch, they'd say, oh, well, we'll just go down the road here and grab a bite to eat. You know, going down the road is traveling 30 miles. Oh. To a restaurant.
Yeah.
To eat, you know. To me, down the road means, well, maybe it's a mile or so down the road in a restaurant, but
especially in California when everything is so close together.
Yeah, right. And then you have to get on the busy freeways.
Yeah.
And everything. And that's the other thing that, well, it took a little while to get used to, is just driving in California. But I did find one thing that I can't say I liked, but it was something that I could get used to. And that was when I drove in California, I knew what the next guy was going to be doing. Somebody ahead of me says, I'm going to turn right. They would turn right. In Washington, if someone ahead of me was going to turn right or indicated they were going to turn right, they didn't always turn right.
Oh.
You know, and so it was more of a guessing game than anything else. Driving in Washington than in California. And the other thing is, in California, if somebody wanted to merge in, as long as there was enough room, 2 cars in front of me, I could be sure that they're going to move over. In Washington, you never knew when someone was going to move over. Sometimes they'd move over and there was hardly any room at all, or sometimes you're waiting for them to move over and half a mile ahead, then they finally decide they need to move over, type of thing. But I still don't like to drive in California. It's and I guess I know that my reaction times aren't quite as good as they used to be. And I guess I just don't trust as much. But it's still an experience. And our trips down to California were really nice, and we always enjoyed going down there. Most of the time, when we went to California, we usually had a destination. And so it was start in Olympia, stop in Medford, and then get to wherever we're going. It's not like, well, gee, maybe we should stop in Portland, look around in Portland. Maybe we should go over to the coast and go to sunny Seaside or something.
Yeah.
You know. But but it was still a lot of fun. And it was nice because you could drive.
Yeah.
You didn't always have to fly. You didn't have to take a boat or anything. And it gave your mom and I guess, together time to sit and talk.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of times when I'm driving, I usually don't talk very much. And I think sometimes that bothered your mother once in a while. I think she likes to have some conversation. I can go for hours without saying anything driving. And I think sometimes that's maybe a little bit too boring for her. But I think in the end, we got that all settled out. And so I wouldn't go as long without talking, and she wouldn't complain as soon.
Yeah.
Me not saying anything.
Yeah.
But anyway, that all worked out real good. And so anyway, I guess that is the big part of what you had outlined.
Yeah.
It almost takes up to the time we started coming here to Hawaii.
Okay.
The one other thing that we did a lot from a traveling standpoint, and it was a good use of our timeshares, was that I bowled on a team with my uncle.
Oh.
He was stationed at Fort Lewis, and he had a bowling team with my cousin, his brother-in-law, and another friend, I think. And we would go to the national tournament every year, and it was held throughout the United States.
Okay.
And so they needed a fifth bowler, and luckily they didn't need a good fifth bowler. They just needed a fifth bowler. And so they asked me if I wanted to be on the team. And for the first couple of years, I just went alone with the team. Like I went to Dayton, Ohio, and then I went to Niagara Falls for a bowling tournament. And then after that, your mom and I decided that what we would do is we would find a timeshare close to the city that the tournament was being held in. And then we'd go spend maybe a week there.
Oh, yeah.
Someplace close by.
Yeah.
And see. So then we started doing that. And so there was a tournament in Nashville. And so we stayed, I think, in a city close by Nashville. And I bowled in the tournament, and then the rest of the tournament only took 2 days, and we would have a week. So
yeah, right.
We would go sightseeing.
Nice.
And then we went to places like Corpus Christi, Texas, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Billings, Montana, Salt Lake City, Utah, Las Vegas, Reno.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah, and those were a lot of fun because my aunt started going along also. So then Robin had somebody else to sit and talk and watch us bowl and things like that. And we got to see an awful lot of different cities that way. In Tulsa, we were in a tornado.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we didn't even know we were.
Oh, huh.
And so that, I guess that was the most exciting thing we ever had
Yeah.
when we were there. And
Right.
but what had happened? I get well. What had happened is my arthritis started bothering me too much, and so then
Oh.
I couldn't bowl anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't, you know,
Yeah.
contribute to the team, so
Mm-hmm.
I stopped doing it. But I think that together, your mom and I went to at least a dozen different cities,
Yeah.
bowling tournament wise,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that was another good use of our timeshares
Yeah.
uh, because uh, we had a lot of time and we needed to use the timeshares because if we didn't use them, uh, we'd lose that week.
Oh, yeah.
And the timeshares weren't cheap as far as maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
There was a yearly maintenance we had to pay, and so uh, we had to make the effort to use them.
Mm-hmm.
That way, they paid for themselves. And
Yeah.
then after we started thinking about coming over here to Hawaii on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we decided that we would just get rid of our timeshares.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the timeshares would take our week back.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other timeshares, we had to pay a clearinghouse
Oh.
to take the timeshare.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't cheap, but then in the long run, it was cheaper because otherwise we would have still had to pay the yearly maintenance fee.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And that was kind of expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, but our experiences with timeshares was good,
Mm-hmm.
and we have no regrets on doing any of that. I don't have any regrets doing any of that. It's just another life experience that
Yeah.
you go through, and
You got to see lots of different cities and
yeah,
things like
that's
that.
right.
Yeah. Go
And
different places. Did you fly for the most part, or did you drive to all those places?
most of the places we flew, like when we went to Nashville, I flew.
Mm-hmm.
Corpus Christi, we flew. Huntsville, Alabama, we flew. Uh, I think maybe when we went to Las Vegas or Reno, uh, I think we might have driven. And the only place that I thought was sort of way out of the way was Billings, Montana.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people don't even know where Billings, Montana is. And it's not a very big city.
Mm-hmm.
But these cities throughout the United States would bid on the tournament.
Mm.
They bid on it, guaranteeing that they would build a bowling alley with at least 60 lanes.
Oh, wow.
And then they would, then the city could do whatever they wanted to after the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
What a lot of them did was they sold off all the equipment,
Mm-hmm.
maybe to the next city that was bidding or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
But each one was a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how the bidding process goes, but it costs quite a bit, I think, for the city to actually put on a tournament because it went from March until June.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a pretty long, lengthy tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still a lot of fun. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds like it.
yeah. And it was, something to do rather than sitting around the house
Yeah.
doing, let's see, And we could incorporate it into our other activities like the bonsai club,
Mm-hmm.
book club, the garden club.
Mm-hmm.
Is you know, the garden club had their annual exhibit at the Thurston County Fair,
Mm-hmm.
and both your mom and I were pretty active in getting that set up
Mm-hmm.
and volunteering for that.
Mm-hmm.
And one year, the National Garden Club, the International Garden Club, held a conference up in Anchorage.
Mm-hmm.
And so the district chairman, who was a real good friend of Robin's, said, "We're setting up a cruise up to Anchorage. Would you like to be part of it?"
Mm-hmm.
And we said, "Sure." It was, I think there was a small discount on the cruise.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a one-way cruise.
Oh, yes. I remember that too when you came up.
Yeah. And so we took the cruise up, and that was a really interesting event.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of fun because I'd never been on well, I have been on a boat that big, but not with that kind of activity.
Yeah.
The closest thing I had on that was a troop ship going to Germany.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which was exactly the same thing.
Right.
And and I found out that you could eat 24 hours a day on the boat, and you can gamble 24 hours a day on the boat. And the thing that was a lot of fun was that the boat stopped during the day at these major cities like Juneau, Ketchikan.
Yeah, right.
And we were able to get off and take tours within the cities. And so that was a lot of fun. But I think both your mom and I agreed that the Alaska cruise was probably the only cruise that we would take. They've got these Caribbean cruises that you can take and things like that. But there's too many people on the boat on those big Caribbean cruises. And it just didn't seem as much fun. At least it was. The cruise going up to Alaska, the boat was a little smaller, and it made a little bit more stops, and it was in, well, more frontier type environment.
Yeah, right.
And we both enjoyed that kind of a setting.
Yeah.
So that worked out good, and we really liked it. So, and the thing that was nice about it is that we were traveling with a group, so we knew a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Like at the dinner table. And
yeah.
Things like that.
So, right. That's always fun.
Yeah. So anyway, that's about, I think, all I have right now.
Okay. Well, we can go into the other section. I'm going to just unpin you for a second here, and there we go. So now I'm side by side, but so next time we'll go into some of those later years of your retirement, maybe those Hawaii years, and
Sure.
and how all that came about, and why you're living over there now, and
Right.
just some of those kinds of things, because that's a really kind of a different part of your life.
It is. It's definitely a different part. It's well, what do I say? It's taken a while to get used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I guess it's just another part of your life that you go through,
Mm-hmm. Right.
depending on situations and things
Yeah.
like that. I think that the earlier years of coming here to Hawaii is worth talking about, and how we got to
Mm-hmm.
where we're at now,
Yeah.
and those kinds of things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the differences that we encountered by being able to come over here and enjoy, but the weather,
Yeah. Right.
the food.
Mm-hmm.
We still didn't know a whole lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
but the other thing that was kind of good, was kind of interesting, is the fact that having visitors come from the mainland
Mm-hmm.
and come and stay with us, and being able to provide, I guess, things like cars and a place to stay
Sure.
that maybe normally they wouldn't be able to, or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And,
Well, I look forward to hearing about all that.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's always fun. It's sometimes I don't want to say it takes effort, because people don't stay here long enough to, I guess, really get on your nerves or
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
create
sure.
that kind of a situation. But then sometimes it takes a little bit of time planning.
Mm-hmm.
So if we know that we got someone coming over, then I don't know, I guess we feel some obligation to show them some places of interest, places
Mm-hmm.
to go see,
Mm-hmm.
things to do, and those types of things.
Yeah, right.
And, but your mom was real good about gathering all that information,
Mm-hmm.
making lists, and doing things like that.
Yeah.
So that worked out really good.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's great. Yeah. Just sounds like right up her alley. Huh?
yeah, she was a very organized person,
Mm-hmm.
and she liked doing things on the computer,
Mm-hmm.
which helped her to be more organized,
Mm-hmm.
I think. So
Yeah.
that worked out really well
Yeah.
too. So, okay, well,
All right. Well, thank you again, Jean. And so I look forward to our next time with the Hawaii
okay.
years. Okay.
Same time, same place,
Yeah.
or thereabouts.
Yeah.
When you